There is, in fact, quite a bit of good going on right now in professional sports. The NHL and NBA seasons, the NHL season just kicked off, and I think NBA is right around the corner as well. You got MLB playoffs in full swing, and from what I'm seeing on the periphery, they're looking pretty good. I couldn't be asked to watch them at this point in time, but I digress. But there is, in fact, quite an adversarial relationship developing in certain pockets. First and foremost, we have a league attacking the only player of note during its entire existence, the only one to really break through to the mainstream being Caitlin Clark, and now her ongoing rivalry with the WNBA, because you've got the commissioner, apparently, WNBA commissioner Kathy Engelbert denies Caitlin Clark comments because apparently in hushed tones she's out there saying that Caitlin Clark would nearly be the star that she is if it wasn't for the brace for impact on this one. If it wasn't for the exposure the WNBA would provide her, LOL. Why is it exactly, that Caitlin Clark, upon entry into the league, was one of, if not the highest paid female athletes in the world? Is that because the WNBA, or was it because she made a name for herself in college ball prior to getting to the lesser stage of the WNBA? But the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, faced the media in the pre-finals press conference on Friday, addressing last week's viral leadership takedown by Minnesota star Nafisa Collier. We'll get around to her in a second, and calling out some of the links as forward's more controversial claims. Engelbert and Collier's account of their past conversation had a lot of inaccuracies, with the commissioner specifically denying that she said rookie stars like Caitlin Clark should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the exposure the WNBA provides. It's the other way around. Like, normally, I would take the stance that no professional sports league is bigger than one individual player. You could argue in the 90s, like, Jordan was probably bigger than the NBA, but it was definitely, speaking to the popularity of the NBA back in the 90s, it was definitely a summation of all of its parts as opposed to, just Jordan himself, because you take the Bulls out of the league, and for a couple of years when Jordan was off playing baseball, you still had the Houston Rockets with, Clyde Drexler and Hakeem, Charles Barkley's Suns, Patrick Ewing's Knicks. San Antonio Spurs were just getting a renaissance with a very, very, very young Tim Duncan and David Robertson. I'm forgetting a bunch as well. But to think, and especially in the context, because, the NBA had been successful for a very, very long time, even taking into account of the dip in popularity in the 70s. They want to say that they made any of their superstars a household name. If they wanted to take credit for the elevation of LeBron James, making him the first active player that's a billionaire, I could understand that. I think it would be a little bit cocky to come forward with that statement, but from a league that has never turned a profit and is continuing to lose tens of millions of dollars a year, you better fucking park your attitude there, bitch. Obviously, I didn't make those comments, Engelbert said. There's a lot of inaccuracies out there through social media and all of this reporting. And that's interesting because it's not so much reporting as what is being accounted as a first-hand recitation of events. Because on one hand, you have the statements of Nafisa Collier out there in Minnesota, but then you have teammate of Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham. WNBA leaders don't know shit about basketball, which is, that's another damning indictment as well. Indiana Fever stars Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark threw their support behind Nafisa Collier on Thursday, just 2 days after the WNBP, that's a lot of letters, Vice President ripped Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the league leadership in a scathing exit interview, and never wanted to mince words. Cunningham went straight for the neck. I'm just tired of our league. They need to step up and do better. They gotta be better, Senator. Our leadership from top to bottom needs to be held accountable. 100%, man. This is what happens when you get a bunch of women in charge. Nothing ever works right. She didn't name Engelbert at first. Cunningham didn't hold back when asked about Collier's comments, calling the WNBA's leadership shameful and accusing the commissioner of making everything about her. Wow, big shock, huh? I think that there are a lot of people in the position of power in the WNBA. They might be really great business people, but they don't know shit about basketball, and that's got to change. Cunningham also expressed frustration with the league's unwillingness to address the season-long officiating crisis. She described the WNBA WNBA games as a battlefield and said it has become the only way to survive. It's like a battlefield out there, but we, the players, are agreeing on the court because of how awful the officials are. That's saying something. Everybody's just trying to kill each other because that's how you're going to survive. Otherwise, you're going to get injured, just like her very prominent teammate was for large swaths of the WNBA season, just for the simple fact that, well, she's popular and everybody else fucking stinks. Let's just call it exactly what it is. And to add on to Collier's and Cunningham's comments, Caitlin Clark backs up Collier, saying Commissioner Engelbert hasn't contacted her. Well, what is this all about? Caitlin Clark hasn't spoken to the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert this week, but she's ready to add her name to the growing list of players criticizing the league's leadership. The Indiana Fever guard, star I would say, spoke publicly Thursday for the first time since the All-Star weekend and acknowledged that Minnesota Lynx star Napheesa Collier made valid points when she took her complaints about WNBA executives public. I think what people need to understand, we need great leadership in this time across all levels. This is straight up the most important moment in our league's history. The league's been around for 25 years, and this is the moment that we have to capitalize on. I do agree. Fee said it all with what she said, and I think the points she made were very valid. Collier criticized the league's top brass for fining players, and coaches who speak out against officiating and other WNBA matters. Her comments came 2 days after the top seed of the Lynx were eliminated from the playoffs without Collier, who suffered an ankle injury on a no-call play near the end of Game 3, or coach Cheryl Reeve, who was suspended and fined for storming the court and contesting the no call. And so, as the WNBA heads into an off-season, there's going to be some very difficult conversations to pop up. But one that's going to have to get addressed in the much more immediate future is over in the NFL. And, well, this right here is causing a stir, and I kind of understand it in so much as I don't really care about the... Okay, I've made this perfectly clear. I can go ahead and separate the art from the artist time and time again. So, the fact that Bad Bunny, okay, you probably don't know who this is, but if you are around a certain Hispanic demographic, you've probably heard the name before because this guy is a phenomenon in Latin American circles. But as the halftime performer for the Super Bowl, it's an odd choice. Now, if, say, I don't know, like the MLB needed somebody to perform during the 7th inning stretch of the All-Star game, getting Bad Bunny with the amount of Hispanic players in Major League Baseball, that would totally make sense. But you take a look at the demographic breakdowns for the NFL, and probably a smarter choice than, say, Miranda Lambert or Men Without Hats, but let's just say the questionable choice for Usher, what was that, last year or the year before, looks a lot more on point than somebody that doesn't even have a single song in English. It's a really stupid decision. But of course, there's more culturally relevant issues that Bad Bunny prefers to champion that is becoming somewhat of a cultural bugaboo. Donald Trump, yes, slams a ridiculous Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show pick. Never heard of him. And yeah, prior to seeing him pop up for, what was it, like a Royal Rumble performance a couple years back in WWE, like I've never heard of this guy before, but then hearing about him on a couple of different places, and then just hearing about how big he is and how he sells out arenas and stadiums in Latin America, it's like, oh, okay, cool. I can understand his appeal. And the more you discover about this guy, you really understand how appealing he is to certain demographics out there without getting too spicy. But it really does beg the question, why give him the Super Bowl halftime show? Especially given that this Super Bowl is going to be taking place in 2026, which happens to be the 250th anniversary of the United States. And also, when it comes to professional sports, Donald Trump has just signed on the dotted line to get a big UFC card at the White House on his 80th birthday. So yeah, see how all of this stuff runs in the same circles? But I digress. Let's just say if there's going to be a performance there during that event, you might see a couple of big booty Latina ring girls, but there will not be a bilingual musical performance. President Donald Trump weighed in on Bad Bunny being named the halftime show headliner for the 2026 Super Bowl, slamming the pick is absolutely ridiculous. On Monday's episode of Newsmax's Greg Kelly Reports, the host asked Trump to weigh in on the announcement. The NFL just chose the Bad Bunny rabbit, or whatever his name is. Greg Kelly said, the guy who hates ICE, he doesn't like you, he accuses everything he doesn't like of racism. Yeah. Makes sense, right? After he asked Trump if he would consider boycotting the NFL, Kelly said the Bad Bunny doesn't seem like doesn't seem like a unifying entertainer, and a lot of folks don't even know who he is. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I've never heard of him, Trump said of the musician. I don't know who he is. Well, Trump said he wasn't familiar with Bad Bunny's music. He made it clear that he didn't agree with the decision to have him headline the game. I don't know why they're doing it. It's crazy. And then they blame it on some promoter they hired to pick up entertainment. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Because yeah, man, you take a look at previous halftime performers like Prince, Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson. Does Bad Bunny really deserve to be up there? I don't know, man. The more you think about it, the more it comes across as a really purposefully divisive pick. After Bad Bunny was named the headliner, Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski said ICE would be in attendance at the game. That's fucking hilarious. Additionally, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem reiterated Lewandowski's claims by insisting that ICE agents would be all over the Super Bowl. I'll come up with something unique, bitch. Bad Bunny recently said that he didn't include any U.S. dates on his latest tour, partly because of worries about potential ICE raids. Bro, you'd be here on a work visa. Stop fucking morally grandstanding. And there were many reasons why I didn't show up in the U.S., and none of them were out of hate. I performed there many times. All of the shows have been successful, he said through a translator. But there was an issue of, like, fucking ICE could be outside my concert, and that's something that we're talking about and very concerned about. What are your ticket prices? I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering, unless you're worried about scalpers outside the event, but you're very well compensated for any of your performances, my guy, so just shut the fuck up. Bad Bunny also addressed the conservative criticism of his upcoming halftime show performance when he hosted season 51 premiere of Saturday Night Live on October the 4th, and that kind of lets you know exactly what you need to know about this guy. He just hosted Saturday Night Live's 51st season premiere. Did you hear about that? Have you heard about Bad Bunny before he got given the Super Bowl halftime show? Yeah, chances are you haven't, and this is just the NFL doing weird NFL shit once again. Professional sports, man, they can be a great unifier, but in these two examples here, the WNBA and the NFL, they can just go to show you that they can be just as divisive as everything else. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.